Before starting the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you are new to my channel. It really motivates me to keep on creating anime recaps for you guys. The story starts, and Sato Ryouta gets summoned to another world as a drop item from a slime. The girl who killed the slime wonders if this is some kind of human-shaped meat, and she thinks that she will try cutting it up. Ryouta then wakes up, and he asks the girl to stop. This startles the girl, and she wonders if he is a human. Ryouta thinks that this should be obvious, and the girl wonders why he was dropped from a slime. Ryouta thinks that all this talk about slimes and drops doesn't make sense, and he wonders if she is actually sane. The girl then shows Ryouta a slime, and she defeats the slime after fighting it for a while. The slime then drops some bean sprouts, and the girl states that the slimes on level 1 of Tellula drop bean sprouts. Ryouta wonders what's going on, and he asks the girl if this is how bean sprouts are made. The girl states that bean sprouts and everything else is made this way, and she mentions that everything in this world is dropped by monsters in dungeons. Ryouta then asks the girl if they are not in Japan, and the girl wonders what that is. The girl then kills another slime on her way, and Ryouta states that she has been killing nothing but slimes all this time. He wonders if she is not going to kill anything else, and the girl mentions that slimes are the only monsters on the first level of Tellulu. He asks the girl if she is not going to go to the other levels, and the girl states that she is too weak for that. She mentions that she might be able to go up to level 2 if she levels up some more, and Ryouta can't believe that they can even level up here. The girl then shows Ryouta a status board, and she shows him her stats using it. Ryouta thinks that this is just like a video game, and he notices that the girl's strength and HP are rated C and B. He thinks that she must be a power type, and he notices that there is a second page to the stats. On the second page are the girl's drop stats, and the girl mentions that high drop stats make it easier to get more drops, and it also increases the quantity of the drops. She states that her highest rating is in plant-based drops, and she wonders if Ryouta would like to give this a try. Ryouta then checks his stats, and he finds out that he has the level of 1, and all of his abilities are rated at the bottom, and level 1 is the highest level he can reach. The girl states that his drop stats are also quite low, and she mentions that she has never seen someone get an S rank for them. Ryouta thinks that S should be the highest rank, and he wonders if it's different in this world. He states that he will try it out, and he asks the girl if she has something that can work as a weapon. The girl gives him her hammer, but it's too heavy for him to lift. The girl then gives him a bamboo spear, and a slime then comes there. Ryouta fights the slime, and he manages to defeat it after some fighting, and the slime drops a lot of bean sprouts. Ryouta wonders if the girl has ever gotten this many bean sprouts in a drop, and the girl states that she has been here for 2 years, but this is her first time seeing something like this. Ryouta thinks that this must mean that the S rank is really above A, and he wonders if the girl has ever seen the S rank before. The girl states that she hasn't, and she has never even heard of it. Ryouta's stomach then growls, and the girl states that they should get something to eat. The girl then cooks some dishes using bean sprouts, and after eating the dish Ryouta thinks that this will make a good beer snack. Ryouta wonders what the girl thinks, and the girl states that liquor is expensive so she can't even afford it. The girl then serves Ryouta some soup, and Ryouta cries after eating it. The girl wonders if it's not good, and Ryouta states that it's just that it has been a while since he has eaten something warm. Ryouta then remembers that in his old world he got home late every night due to unpaid overtime, so he would just wolf down something cold from the convenience store. Due to this he also fell ill once, and after getting out of the hospital he had to do overtime again to make up for the lost time. Then he missed the last train, and took a nap in his office, and the next thing he knew, he was dropped by a slime. He thinks that nothing ever paid off in his life, and the girl then hugs him, and she mentions that she once heard that nothing goes unrewarded in this world, and how quickly or slowly it happens might vary, but those who work hard always get rewarded. She states that Ryouta worked really hard, so all that's left for him now is to reap the rewards. Ryouta then thanks the girl for this, and he thinks that he should go and look for a place to stay. The girl states that there is a town right outside of the dungeon, and Ryouta can find lodgings there. She mentions that she is going to sleep here, and she states that she doesn't earn much as her drops are low. She mentions that her dream is to rent an apartment one day, and she then gives Ryouta the bamboo spear. Ryouta states that he will return it someday, and the girl mentions that she will always be in level 1 of Tellulu. Ryouta then asks her name, and the girl introduces herself as Emily Brown. The scene then cuts to Ryouta in town, and he finds out that the currency here is pilos. The bean sprouts he got sold for 200 pilos, and a room to sleep in costs 2,000 pilos a night. He verifies the prices of the things he needs, and he then goes and kills some slimes in the dungeon. The scene then changes to Ryouta bringing Emily in a house, and he states that he rented this with what he earned in the last 3 days. Emily thinks that this is amazing, and Ryouta mentions that it might be a little run down, but this is all he could manage in 3 days. Emily wonders how much it costs, and Ryouta states that it costs 20,000 pilos a month. Ryouta then hands Emily the key to the house, and he states that he will give this house to her. He mentions that she doesn't need to worry about anything as he is going to cover the rent, and Emily states that she can't accept this. Ryouta mentions that this is to thank her for the soup, and Emily accepts this, but she asks Ryouta to stay here with her. Ryouta agrees, and the scene then cuts to Ryouta exchanging the bean sprouts for money at the guild. Urza, the receptionist, gives Ryouta 2,000 pilos for the bean sprouts, and Ryouta thinks that he might try the second level of Telulu next as the bean sprouts don't fetch for much. Urza informs him that the monsters on the second floor drop carrots, and Ryouta thinks that this is weird, but this is how it works in this world. Urza then asks him if he has heard about the new dungeon that showed up recently, and Ryouta can't believe that dungeons just show up. Urza states that the name of the dungeon is Nihonium, and the Neptune Groups is investigating what's dropped there. Urza explains that the Neptune Group is the most powerful organization in their town of Sekro, and Ryouta states that he should leave now as he is holding up the line. Urza then invites Ryouta out for a drink tonight, but Ryouta declines her invitation. Ryouta then goes to his house, and he thinks that it has been a long time since he came home to someone. He is then welcomed home by Emily, and he notices that the place is a whole lot cleaner now. Emily mentions that she cleaned it up, and she might have gone a little overboard, as this was her first time cleaning a house. Emily then gives Ryouta a hot towel, and she serves him some tea, and Ryouta states that she doesn't need to do so much. Emily mentions that being able to do things around her house is a new feeling for her, and it doesn't make her tired at all. Ryouta then mentions that he has heard that a new dungeon named Nihonium just showed up, and Emily states that she has heard that it's an useless dungeon where nothing is dropped. Ryouta thinks that a dungeon which drops nothing is suspicious in this world where everything is acquired by dungeons, and he goes to investigate Nihonium. Ryouta searches the dungeon for a while, and a skeleton shows up. Ryouta notices that it's really strong, and his attacks don't damage it much. A boulder then drops on the skeleton before he can attack Ryouta, and Ryouta then kills the trapped skeleton with his bamboo spear. The skeleton then drops a seed, and the seed disappears as soon as Ryouta touches it, and he hears a voice telling him that his HP has increased by 1. The scene then cuts to Emily noticing that Ryouta's HP rank has gone up to C, and Ryouta thinks that the seed's effects must be real. Ryouta states that he then killed a lot more of the skeletons, and during this he did some research, and he found out that the seeds are only dropped when he kills the skeletons himself, and he is the only one who can touch the dropped seeds. Ryouta then notices that his HP rank has gone up again, and Emily thinks that Ryouta is amazing for getting stronger without even leveling up. Ryouta then thinks that Nihonium must be a stat-increasing dungeon for those with S-rank drop stats, and the scene then cuts to him having dinner in his house. Emily then asks Ryouta if he will be out late tonight as well, and Ryouta states that his HP has finally gotten to S rank after busting his ass at Nihonium, and he is going to go to level 2 of Telulu today, and check out how strong he has gotten. Emily advises Ryouta to not be too reckless, and she states that Ryouta seemed exhausted when he first rented this apartment, and he has been going out every night recently. Ryouta mentions that he will be back before nightfall, and the scene then cuts to him on the second floor of Telulu. There he battles a sleepy slime, and the slime's attacks don't hurt him much. Ryouta then defeats the slime after a fight, and the slime drops a big carrot. Another slime then shows up there, and someone defeats it with a fire spell. The group who defeated the slime then ask Ryouta if a newbie like him is ready for level 2, and they check his stats, and they find out that he has a level of 1. They laugh seeing this, and they state that Ryouta should go back to the first level if he doesn't want to die, and they leave. A bunny girl then sneaks up on Ryouta from behind, and she states that she hates people with a low level. The girl then leaves, and Ryouta wonders what that was. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at his house, and he mentions that he made 8,000 pilos selling the carrots he got today. Emily thinks that this is great, and Ryouta mentions that he kept enough carrots for them to eat. Emily states that she will make something tasty with them, and someone then knocks at the door. Ryouta notices that it's the bunny girl, and the girl mentions that she hates people with a low level. Ryouta wonders if she came here just to tell him that, and the girl then states that she loves him. The story continues, and Ryouta wonders what the bunny girl means. The bunny girl then uses her chop on another person, and this makes the person heavily injured, and she wonders how Ryouta is alive even after her attack when he has a level of 1. Ryouta thinks that it's probably because his HP is at rank S, and he wonders why the bunny girl is here. The bunny girl then shows Ryouta a carrot, and Ryouta remembers that this is the carrot he dropped in the dungeon, and we see that it was picked up by the bunny girl. The bunny girl states that she wants more amazing carrots like this, and she notices that they have more of them in their house. Emily asks her if she would like to eat the carrots with them, and the scene cuts to Emily preparing dinner. She makes carrot noodles, and she uses the carrot leaves and flesh to make some sauce for the noodles, and she also makes a soup using bean sprouts and carrots. The bunny girl thinks that the food is great, and she thinks that Emily must be a god. Ryouta agrees that Emily's cooking is god level, and Emily states that she made lots so they can eat all they want. The bunny girl then leaves after she finishes her food, and Emily tells her to visit them again. Ryouta then wonders what this was all about, and Emily then thanks Ryouta. She mentions that she always ate alone before she came here, so getting to eat with him and a guest makes her really happy. Ryouta thinks that he also ate alone before coming here, and Emily mentions that they should always eat their meals together from now on. The scene then cuts to Ryouta on the second floor of Nihonium, and he encounters a zombie there. His bamboo spear breaks while fighting the zombie, and he is forced to fight it with his hands. He thinks that this is gross, and he wishes that he had a long-range weapon. He then manages to defeat the zombie, and the zombie drops a seed. Ryouta wonders what stats this seed will boost, and the seed boosts Ryuta's strength by 1 point. The bunny girl then comes there, and she wonders what that drop was. Ryouta thinks that according to everyone else nothing is dropped in Nihonium, but since his drop rank is S he gets stat boosts. He thinks that he would rather not tell anyone else about this, and the bunny girl wonders if Ryuta's got any carrots yet. The bunny girl mentions that Ryouta will have to die if he doesn't have any carrots, and she states that they should head to Telyalu as they can't get carrots here. Ryouta mentions that they will go to Telyalu later, and he asks her to wait for him at the Swallow's Gratitude. The scene then cuts to Ryouta heading to the Swallow's Gratitude with the carrots, and he thinks that killing slimes has gotten easier since his strength ranked up from F to D. At the Swallow's Gratitude, Ryouta walks up to the bunny girl, and the others think that no one should walk up to the killer rabbit like that. Ryouta then gives a carrot to the bunny girl, and she eats them, and the others can't believe that Ryouta has carrots that the carrot junkie will accept. Urza then asks Ryouta if he is acquainted with this girl, and Ryouta mentions that he just gave her some carrots, and now she likes him. Urza states that she will buy these carrots for double the retail value, and Ryouta wonders why. Urza then explains that this bunny girl is Eve Callus Leader, and she is an adventurer whose trademark are the bunny ears and the bunny girl look. They say that she can cleave a boulder in half with her finishing move, and she is also famous for being a carrot sommelier. Among the dungeons in the vicinity of Sekro there are carrot levels that no one but her can conquer. She mentions that people have been killed for giving her bad-tasting carrots, so any carrot that gets Eve's seal of approval is sure to sell for a high price, and they would do anything to get them. Urza then gives Ryouta 15,000 pilos for the carrot, and Ryouta thinks that he can make 450,000 pilos a month if he can keep this up. He thinks that he has to thank Eve for this, and Eve states that she would rather take carrots instead of thanks. Ryouta mentions that he doesn't have any left, and he will give her more tomorrow. Eve then tries to chop him, but Ryouta stops her, and everyone is surprised to see him stop her attack. Ryouta then explains that he has promised Emily that he wouldn't work late, and he promises to give Eve more carrots tomorrow. The scene then cuts to Ryouta and Emily in Telyalu, and they think that they had another good haul today. Ryouta then goes to look for more slimes, and he notices a pair of adventurers trying to kill a sleepy slime, but they are unable to kill it. The captain of their adventuring party then comes there, and the adventurers hold the slime down, and the captain finishes it. Ryouta thinks that the captain is strong, and the captain mentions that they should go to the next one. The adventurers ask him to let them rest for a while, as they haven't had a break in 2 days, and the captain states that he could spend weeks in a dungeon when he was a young man. He mentions that this is how he got this strong, and the adventurers state that they haven't had any sleep lately. The captain then mentions that he is doing this for their sakes, and this will make them stronger. He states that he is being strict with them because he believes in them, and the adventurers understand. Ryouta then thinks that he also had a boss like that in his last job, and he would give them impossible tasks, telling them that it was for their own good. Emily then comes there, and she asks Ryouta if something is wrong. Ryouta mentions that it's nothing, and Emily states that they should have lunch. Ryouta thinks that this looks great, and Eve then also comes there. Emily invites her to join them, and she gives her some carrot pudding. Eve thinks that this is amazing, and Ryouta also thinks that the food tastes great. Ryouta then thinks that this feels nice, and he feels really relaxed right now. The captain from before then comes there, and he asks his party members to not turn out like these guys, as showing laziness in a dungeon is inexcusable. He mentions that even items possess spirits, and the effort they put in gathering them affects their quality. He mentions that the drops found by these lazy guys will be of the worst quality, and Eve then serves the adventurers the carrots gathered by Ryouta. They think that it tastes great, and Eve mentions that carrots are delicious even without hard work. She states that Ryouta's carrots are the best, and seeing that he is no match for Eve, the captain leaves with his party. Ryouta then thanks Eve for this, and Eve asks Ryouta to give her more carrots tomorrow. Ryouta understands, and the scene cuts to him and Emily selling the carrots at the swallow's gratitude. Urza thanks them for bringing in so many, and Ryouta mentions that they got more drops, but this was all that they could carry. Urza then asks them if they don't have a magic cart, and Emily shows Ryouta what they look like. Urza explains that Ryouta can carry more items with a magic cart, and it increases the production efficiency. Ryouta thinks that this is great, and the scene cuts to him and Emily out to buy a magic cart. They go to a shop that Urza recommended to them, and a child welcomes them into the shop. Ryouta asks her if her mom or dad are here, and the child then summons her father there. He asks them what they want, and Ryouta states that he would like to buy a magic cart. The shop owner mentions that he is just the thing for him, and he shows him a cart which also comes with a monster detection system. He mentions that he made it himself so he can guarantee the quality, and Ryouta wonders what it costs. The shop owner states that it costs 10 million pilos, and Ryouta and Emily are surprised to hear this. The shop owner mentions that they can get a regular one for 2 or 3 million, but they don't have much functionalities. The scene then cuts to them out in the town, and they think that they can't afford a magic cart right now. They think that they have to save up for it, and they should just go home and have dinner for now. They then hear a loud noise, and they see people running away fearing a stray. Ryouta wonders what's a stray, and Emily explains that a stray is a kind of monster that appears when people leave drops in parts of dungeons where there aren't many people. They then notice that it's a gorilla, and Ryouta observes that even the adventurers are running away. Emily explains that strays don't drop any items, so most people don't want to fight it as it's not worth the trouble. Ryouta then notices that the shop owner and his daughter are also running away, and they ask them to run away as well. Ryouta then observes that Urza is about to be attacked by the monster, and he steps in and saves her. Eve and some other adventurers then come there to fight the monster, and Urza notices that the town has received considerable damage. Ryouta asks Urza to not worry as he is not going to let the monster destroy the town anymore, and Emily states that she will also come with him. Ryouta then asks the other adventurers to keep the monster busy, and they listen to him as they don't have any other plans. Emily and the others then stop the monster from attacking Ryouta, and Ryouta tries to get close to the monster. Ryouta then headbutts the monster, and he defeats it with a single punch. The onlookers think that Ryouta was amazing, and they all thank him for protecting the town. Ryouta thinks that this is a new feeling as no one has ever been happy about anything that he has done, and he then hears the sound of a drop. He then asks Emily if strays really don't drop anything, and he wonders if the gorilla is also the same as Nihonium's monsters because he also gets drops there. Ryouta and Emily then notice that the gorilla really did drop something. The story continues, and after defeating the gorilla, Ryouta notices that the stray monster dropped a gun. Ryouta wonders how he got a weapon that shouldn't exist in this world from a stray that isn't supposed to drop anything. Later Ryouta checks that his stats are increasing steadily thanks to the seeds that he finds at Nihonium. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at level 2 of Nihonium, and he checks out his gun by slaying the monsters there. With the help of the gun the monsters are slain easily, and Ryouta thinks that the gun works on the monsters as it should. Some monsters then come there, and Ryouta slays them as well. He then wonders how he is supposed to get more bullets, and he wonders if they will drop from strays as well. He thinks that he should use them sparingly until he knows this, and the scene changes to Ryouta helping Emily slay some sleepy slimes. The both of them then have lunch, and Emily thinks that Ryuta's weapon is amazing. She mentions that she has never seen anything like this, and Ryouta states that his strength is now at rank B because of it. He thinks that they should check out the next level of Telulu after this, and he thinks that with an increase in his stats the range of the places he can go also increases. Ryouta then notices that Eve didn't come today, and he thinks that even Eve must have stuff to take care of. Emily states that they will save the carrots for her, and Ryouta mentions that she might show up at their house. Ryouta then mentions that the lunches made by Emily are the best, and Emily serves him some tea as well. Ryouta thinks that this is relaxing, and the scene then changes to them heading to level 3 of Telulu. Emily states that this is her first time here, and she mentions that the monsters here are called cockroach-slimes, and they drop pumpkins. Ryouta then notices that the cockroach-slimes look just like cockroaches, and he thinks that the girls must run away screaming seeing these. Emily then hits the cockroach-slimes hard with her hammer, and Ryouta mentions that she doesn't need to go that hard. Emily mentions that the tragedy will only grow if she doesn't, and she states that she can't allow any of them to escape. Emily then kills a cockroach-slime, and the monster drops a pumpkin. Ryouta mentions that they should go up and get more carrots, and on their way, he thinks that they need to get out of here fast, as he doesn't want to see that scary version of Emily again. Emily then stops, and Ryouta notices that there are a lot of cockroach-slimes ahead. Emily goes berserk seeing this, and she states that she might never regain her humanity after this. Ryouta then kills the slimes using his gun, and he asks Emily to let him take care of this. He thinks that he can't miss a single shot, and he states that he has never concentrated this much in his entire life. We then see that the pumpkins dropped by the cockroach-slimes are really big, and Ryouta thinks that they can't carry all of these to the surface. Emily mentions that those things will spawn again if they stay here, and Eve then comes there, and she states that she is here for today's carrots. Seeing her, Ryouta thinks that he is saved, and we see that they have hauled all the pumpkins outside. Ryouta then sells them at the Swallow's Gratitude, and he states that he will make a few more trips with the rest. At Telulu, Ryouta notices that the pumpkins are ruined, and he thinks that some animal might have gotten to them. Emily then goes into her berserk mode again, and Ryouta notices that the cockroach-slimes are inside the pumpkins. He wonders how this is possible, and he then takes care of them with his gun, but he soon runs out of bullets, and he then kills them using his slippers. The scene cuts to Ryouta finishing his cockroach-slime hunt, and Emily apologizes to him for acting like that. She mentions that she turns into a completely different person when she sees those monsters, and Ryouta states that it's not her fault. Ryouta then notices that the cockroach-slimes have dropped some bullets, and the scene cuts to Urza explaining to him that when they leave drop items behind where there are no people around, then strays spawn around them. Ryouta thinks that Emily told him something similar when the gorilla showed up, and he apologizes to Urza for making her wait for the pumpkins. Urza states that it wasn't a problem as they are still open anyways, but they will be closing soon. Ryouta then wonders if it's possible to force spawn strays, and meanwhile Urza invites Ryouta to have dinner with her, but Ryouta leaves thinking of a new idea. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at a deserted place, and he thinks that he has to act right away when he gets an idea, and he uses a carrot as bait to spawn a stray. Something shows up, but he notices that it's just Eve. Ryouta tries to stop her from eating the carrot, but Eve states that carrots are made for rabbits, and she won't give it up no matter what happens. Ryouta then uses another carrot, and he thinks that he is glad that he brought so many of them, and he can't believe that Eve ate 9 out of the 10 he brought. A sleepy slime then spawns from the carrot, and slaying the slime gives Ryouta some bullets. Ryouta can't believe that his idea worked, and he then wonders what will happen if he can spawn Nihonium monsters as strays. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at Nihonium, and he tries to take the seeds outside the dungeon to try his idea, but the seeds still vanish as soon as he touches them. He thinks that something interesting should happen if he manages to do what he is thinking, and he thought that he might be able to touch the seeds at level 1 of Nihonium as his HP is already maxed out, but it doesn't work. He then thinks that he will just meet up with Emily and hunt down today's supply drops, and a monster then attacks him. While fighting the monster, Ryouta accidentally throws it outside, and he wonders if it will turn into a stray, but the monster vanishes. The scene then cuts to Urza explaining to Ryouta that monsters vanish as soon as they leave the dungeon, otherwise they would have strays all over the place. She states that the monsters also disappear if they enter a different floor within the dungeon, and that's why there is only one type of the monster on each floor. Urza then states that it's surprising that a talented adventurer like Ryouta doesn't know this, and she mentions that she finds this contrast charming, but Ryouta leaves once again, as he gets another idea. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at Nihonium, and he throws a monster out of the dungeon, and he manages to slay it before it disappears. He thinks that it should still count as a stray if he slays the monster outside its floor, and the monster drops some freezing bullets. Ryouta then tries shooting a tree with them, and he thinks that these are amazing, and he could do a lot with them, depending on how he uses them. Later at Tellulu, Ryouta freezes some sleepy slimes with his new bullets, and Emily kills the slime with her hammer. Ryouta thinks that this is like a combo, and Emily mentions that this was amazing. She wonders what it exactly was, and Ryouta states that it was a bullet that freezes whatever it hits. He mentions that it takes time to get them, so he won't be firing them in succession, and he will stick with the normal bullets unless it's an emergency. We then see that it's raining outside the dungeon, and while leaving the dungeon, Ryouta tells Emily to watch her step as it's slippery due to the rain. On their way, they notice a merchant arguing with an adventurer, and Emily states that they would like to pass through. The merchant tells them to pull out some cargo for him, and he states that the adventurer will pay them. Emily then notices that there is a cargo down the cliff, and Ryouta thinks that he might be able to get it if someone could drop a rope to climb down. The adventurer then states that it's been a while since the cargo fell, and it might turn into a stray soon. She tries to destroy it, but the merchant stops her, as the perfume and the cargo will sell for a fortune. He states that he used too much money to get this, and he won't let it go to waste. The adventurer mentions that she doesn't care about this, and she states that he was the one who dropped it. The merchant then tries to hit the adventurer, and we see that he is possessed by a monster called Femini. The adventurer explains that this monster doesn't have a body of its own, and it possesses a human and uses it as a nursery to propagate itself. Ryouta then kills the monster with his gun, and the monster drops some bullets. The adventurer then tells Ryouta and Emily to take the man and run, and she states that she needs to do something or the Femini will pop out in all directions. She mentions that she might be able to hold them off if she goes down there, and become a nursery for them, and she asks Ryouta to gather an army using the time she can buy. Emily wonders what will happen to her, and the adventurer states that as the escort for this mission, it's her responsibility to do this. This reminds Ryouta of his time in his office, and he remembers that one time his colleague screwed up one of his jobs. He had to start the project all over again because of this, and he would have to go on working for 5 days without any sleep to complete the work on time. Ryouta wanted to help his colleague out, but the colleague told him that it was his own mistake, and Ryouta has his own work to do. Ryouta thinks that he wanted to help him at that time, but all he could do was think about himself, and at the present Ryouta asks the adventurer to let him help. He then uses his freezing bullets to freeze all of the monsters coming out of the cargo, and Emily smashes them all using her hammer. The adventurer then thanks them for saving her, and later Ryouta notices that Emily leveled up a lot after slaying that group of Femini. Emily states that it's all thanks to Ryouta, and she mentions that she is sure that good things are going to happen to her if she stays with him. Ryouta mentions that he is the one getting good things out of staying with Emily, and Emily states that they are the same then. The story continues with Emily and Ryouta at the 4th floor of Nihonium, and they see a rare monster there. Ryouta then shoots the rare monster, and he takes it out. The rare monster drops a necklace, and Emily states that this is the first time she has seen a rare monster drop something. Ryouta then gives the necklace to Emily, and he asks her to put this on. He mentions that he wants her to have it, and Emily states that this makes her happy, and she will treasure it forever. Ryouta thinks that this is great, and he mentions that Emily can now rake in profits for them. Emily wonders what Ryouta means, and Ryouta then remembers that Emily can't hear the system sounds, and he tells her that this is a necklace which doubles item drops. Emily states that this is the kind of thing that Ryouta should say first, and afterwards Emily slays some bats, and she gets lots of bamboo shoots, as drops. The scene then cuts to Emily cooking the bamboo shoots at their house, and Ryouta wonders if he can help her with anything. Emily states that she is fine on her own, and she mentions that she will be done soon. Ryouta then thinks that it must be rough for Emily to cook in a tiny kitchen like this, and he then tells Emily that he would like to move somewhere else. He thinks that it should be possible with what they are making right now, and he states that it's time for them to get a nicer place. Emily gets sad hearing this, and Ryouta asks her what kind of place she would like to live in. Emily can't believe that she can come with him as well, and Ryouta states that of course she can. He mentions that it won't be until they save up a little more, and Emily tells Ryouta that it's okay to work hard, but she doesn't want him to burn himself out. Ryouta states that he knows that, and he mentions that he will still come back home at the same time as usual. The scene then changes to Ryouta selling some bamboo shoots at the Swallow's Gratitude, and Urza thinks that these are a bit hard to appraise. A girl then shows up there, and she wonders if Ryouta would mind letting her have those bamboo shoots. Ryouta states that he doesn't mind giving her one of them, and the girl then takes a bamboo shoot, and she skillfully cuts it into pieces. She then tastes the bamboo shoots, and she thinks that they taste amazing. She mentions that despite being raw, they are not bitter at all, and she states that she has never had a sweet and juicy bamboo shoot like this. Ryouta wonders who the hell this lady is, and the lady mentions that she will buy all of Ryuta's bamboo shoots. Ryouta wonders what Urza thinks, and Urza allows the lady to have them all. The lady then states that she can't put a price on this great flavor, and she gives Ryouta some money. Ryouta thinks that by the way this is going it seems like she is going to pay him big for these bamboo shoots, and he notices that she only paid him 20,000 pilos. The lady then leaves, and Ryouta thinks that he shouldn't feel disappointed as 20,000 pilos is still high compared to some of the bamboo shoots in the market. Urza then tells Ryouta that the lady just now was Eric Macy, the epicure, and any food she approves of will fetch a high price among the gourmet crowd. Urza then asks Ryouta to sign a contract with her, and she explains that Ryuta's bamboo shoots will soon become a hot topic all over Sekro, and when that happens, she wants the rights to sell them as a branded product. Ryouta mentions that this would be great for him, but he doesn't think that they are worth it. Urza states that they are, and she mentions that she will pay him a signing bonus in addition to the cost of the shoots. Ryouta agrees to this, and he mentions that he will entrust all of his shoots to her. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at level 1 of Nihonium, and he thinks that he needs to increase his strength stat today. He then notices a girl fighting skeletons in Nihonium, and he tries to help her, but he notices that she has her whole party with her, and together they manage to slay a monster. Ryouta wonders what this was, and a man then tells Ryouta to not get in their way, and he explains that Princess Margaret is on the job. He mentions that she is using an airbox, and he states that monsters sometimes don't drop anything when they kill them, but recent research has revealed that they are actually dropping air. So, they had the idea to put the air in a box and sell it, and they have been marketing it as the air handmade by Princess Margaret. Ryouta then wonders if that is a magic cart they have with them, and the man states that it is, and this allows them to carry a lot of air boxes at once, as they can't have the princess coming in and out of the dungeon too much. Ryouta thinks that this would certainly make things easier, and he thinks that he has wanted one for a long time, but it's a major purchase, so he will have to discuss it with Emily. The scene then cuts to Ryouta discussing this with Emily, and Emily states that they should probably get the magic cart first, as it will increase their productivity, and with this they will soon have enough saved up to buy a new house. Ryouta then states that this means that they will have to live in this small house for a little longer, and he mentions that they should go to the magic cart shop tomorrow. The scene then cuts to them at the magic cart store, and they hear Olga crying inside. They go inside, and they ask her what's wrong, and Olga mentions that her father hasn't come back home. Ryouta wonders if she knows where he went, and Olga states that he told her that he was going to pick flowers. Emily states that they can only get flower drops in a dungeon called Arsenic, and the scene then cuts to them at the first level of Arsenic. Emily then explains that the monsters here are called Dandaroks, and they neither move nor attack people. Ryouta then notices some Dandaroks blocking their way, and he tries to kill them using his gun, but the bullet bounces off them. Emily then kills them with her hammer, and at the second level of Arsenic, they find Olga's father. They notice that he is sleeping, and Ryouta tries to wake him up, but he doesn't wake up. Emily then gets angry at him for making Olga worry so much over this, and she then swings her hammer beside him to wake him up. Ryouta then asks him what he is doing here, and Orton states that he came here to gather parts for his magic cart prototype, namely heavy rocks and light rocks. He states that he did catch the heavy rock, but he couldn't catch the light rock as it is too far out of his reach. We then see that the light rock is flying, and Orton states that it's because they are lighter than air. Ryouta thinks that they might be able to get it if they work together, and he then lifts Emily up on his shoulder, and Emily kills the light rock. Orton takes the flower it drops, and he mentions that this is what he needed. Ryouta wonders what he needs this for, and the scene then cuts to Orton placing the flower outside the dungeon trying to spawn a stray. Orton mentions that the light rock will go up in the sky if it flies off here, and he states that they would have to grab it as soon as it spawns to prevent this from happening. The light rock then spawns, and Orton tries to catch it, but he fails. Ryouta then shoots the light rock with his ice bullet, and the rock falls to the ground due to the weight of ice on it. Orton then takes the light rock, and the scene cuts to him completing his magic cart. Orton then tells Ryouta to take the cart with him, and Ryouta states that he can't accept something this expensive. Orton states that he is not giving him this just for what he did today, and he mentions that this is a reward for saving the town of Sekro the other day. Ryouta then accepts the cart, and the scene cuts to him and Emily slaying monsters at level 4 of Telulu. They store their drops in the magic cart, and the cart then gets full. Emily states that they managed to gather twice as many bamboo shoots thanks to the cart, and Ryouta mentions that he will go to the Swallow's Gratitude to sell the shoots. The scene then cuts to Ryouta noticing that someone is trying to start trouble at the Swallow's Gratitude, and he is asking Urza to pay more for the goods that he is selling. Urza refuses to pay him any more than the list price, and he then tries to raise his hand on her, but Ryouta freezes his hand. He tells the man that Urza wouldn't lie about the list price, and he states that he can prove it. He then takes out the bamboo shoots from his cart, and asks Urza how much the daikons are worth. Urza states that the total comes out to be 8,400 pilos, and Ryouta then fills the cart with daikons, and he mentions that this cart can detect the weight of its contents, and how much they would sell for. The total amount comes out to be 8,400 pilos on the cart as well, and Ryouta states that Urza was telling the man the truth. The man then wonders if Ryouta is in with this shop to run a scam, and Ryouta states that this is not true, but the man still tries to attack him. Ryouta manages to stop his attack, and he sends the man flying with a slap. Urza can't believe that Ryouta had to bail her out again, and she mentions that as an item trader she can't bear to be helped out all the time. Ryouta states that there is nothing wrong with receiving help, and he mentions that Urza also helped him out a lot. Urza states that this is not really true, and Ryouta states that seeing her cheerful face while selling items helps him every day. Ryouta then mentions that he will protect her again if something like that happens, and Urza then kisses him to thank him. This surprises Ryouta, and Urza runs away from embarrassment after this. The scene then cuts to Ryouta and Emily at level 4 of Telulu. They slay a bunch of monsters there, and they notice that the bamboo shoots collected by them are worth 200,000 pilos. They think that they will be able to buy a house now, and the scene then cuts to them packing their things for the move. Ryouta states that it's time for them to say goodbye to this place, and Emily mentions that it's a bit sad, as they made a lot of memories here. Ryouta then states that they should keep their lease on this place even after they move, as that way they will be able to come here any time. Emily mentions that this would be expensive, and Ryouta states that they should be able to afford it with their current income. The scene then cuts to them at their new house, and Emily cooks their breakfast, and Ryouta notices that Eve is here as well. Eve states that they can always find her in a place where there are carrots, and Emily mentions that it's no problem as she has made enough for all of them. The story continues with Emily cooking food in their new house, and she thinks that the food is coming out great, and she is also enjoying her new life very much. We see that Ryouta is at level 3 of Nihonium, and there he defeats mummies, and he runs out of bullets. The drops on this level increase Ryuta's speed, and another mummy then comes to face off against Ryouta, and Ryouta defeats it barehandedly. He thinks that this must be because his strength is at rank S, and he thinks that he is better off using his punches here. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at the Swallow's Gratitude, and there he meets a guy. Ryouta asks him who he is, and he then notices that the guy is surrounded by a girl on each arm. The girls ask the guy if this is the person he was talking about, and the guy states that this seems to be him. Seeing the guy's pretty face and the girls around him pisses off Ryouta, and he asks the guy what he wants from him. The guy states that he wants to arm wrestle, and Ryouta wonders why, and the guy mentions that he is interested in Ryouta's power. He states that he has heard that Ryouta put on quite a show here recently, and he asks Ryouta to have a match with him. Ryouta gets pissed off seeing that he is even confident on top of having cute girls and good looks, and he thinks that he can't let this slide. They then arm wrestle, and they are both surprised by each other's strength. Ryouta then manages to defeat the guy after a bit of a deadlock, and the others can't believe that Neptune lost. Ryouta then remembers that Urza told him that Neptune is the most powerful organization in Sekiro, and Neptune asks Ryouta if he would like to go another round. Ryouta states that they have made enough of a scene today, and Neptune then tries to punch Ryouta, and Ryouta punches Neptune back, blowing him away. Neptune then thinks that Ryouta is not half bad, and he asks Ryouta if he would like to join their family. The others think that this is a good opportunity, and the scene then cuts to Ryouta telling Emily that he turned him down. He mentions that he has no interest in belonging to any groups, and he states that he has more fun living here with Emily. Emily states that she is happy to hear that, and he then mentions Ryouta is cocky for a low level. Emily states that it's amazing that he was scouted by Neptune, and she thinks that it must be because he has helped so many people. She states that Ryouta is a hero, and the scene then changes to Ryouta at Nihonium, and he is happy at being called a hero. Ryouta then meets the princess and her group, and he notices that they have some boxes. A man in the princess's party tells Ryouta that these are called Pandora boxes, and they automatically suck up the dropped items. It even displays the face of the person who found them, and this makes it easier for people to believe that this heir is harvested by the princess. The man then states that he will give Ryouta a few boxes, and he asks Ryouta to promote them to his fellow adventurers. Ryouta thinks that he doesn't need this many, and he then realizes that he can use them for something else as well. Ryouta then uses the boxes to store the seeds dropped by Nihonium monsters, and brings the seeds outside to spawn strays. Ryouta then slays the spawn strays, and he easily gets many freezing bullets. Ryouta then gets another idea, and Emily then also comes to Nihonium, and she notices that Ryouta is slaying some strays. Ryouta then slays some zombies and mummies, and he notices that they drop different kinds of bullets. He finds out that the red one is fire bullet, and he is surprised to find out about the white bullet. He thinks that he needs to get more of them, and Ryouta then gathers a bunch of special bullets. Ryouta then feels a chill down his spine, and he wonders what's wrong. Emily mentions this is why she came here, and she tells Ryouta that a magic storm is coming. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at the Swallow's Gratitude, and Urza asks him if Emily is not with him today. Ryouta states that Emily had some shopping to do, and Urza understands, as a magic storm is coming. Ryouta wonders what that has to do with shopping, and Urza wonders if Ryouta doesn't know what a magic storm is. Ryouta states that he doesn't know much about it, and Urza then explains that a magic storm is a very rare natural phenomenon, and when they occur no one can use magic. Depending on how big they are, they also affect the dungeons, and this magic storm is a big one, so the dungeons are also going to be affected. That's why everyone who uses magic are taking the day off, and this leads to reduced availability of items in the markets, which affects how people shop. A guy then comes to the Swallow's Gratitude, and he asks for help. He mentions that his partner Rosa got left behind in Silicon, and Urza recognizes the guy as Reese. Ryouta wonders what's Silicon, and Urza states that it's a dungeon intended for magic users. Ryouta thinks that the magic users were supposed to take the day off, and Urza mentions that Reese and Rosa came to Sekiro recently, and they might not have heard about the storm on time. We then see that no one is willing to help Reese, and Ryouta wonders why this is. Neptune then comes there, and Ryouta wonders why he is here. Neptune states that he thought that Ryouta might have changed his mind, and Ryouta states that he didn't. Neptune then thinks that it's bad that Rosa is stranded on Silicon, as the monsters there are a real pain, and even he doesn't want to go near that dungeon. Urza explains that the monsters in Silicon take no damage from non-magical attacks, and Neptune states that Reese has his condolences, but he can't put his life in danger for someone he doesn't even know. Ryouta then remembers Emily's words, and he tells Reese that he is going to help him. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at level 1 of Silicon, and he remembers that Reese told him that Rosa will be on level 3 of Silicon. Ryouta then uses his fire bullets to slay the monsters there, and he freezes the drops with his ice bullets so that the drops don't spawn any strays. Ryouta is glad that he can still use his special bullets during the magic storm, and he thinks that he might be able to save Rosa this way. Ryouta then keeps on slaying the monsters, and meanwhile in the swallow's gratitude, Emily finds out that Ryouta is in a tough spot. Eve also overhears this, and the scene then changes to Ryouta on level 3 of Silicon. He slays the monsters there using the same method as earlier, and he then finds Rosa. He notices that she is heavily injured, and some more monsters then show up there. Ryouta then notices that he is out of special bullets, and we see that Emily and Eve are on their way to help Ryouta. Eve states that Ryuta's carrots are important, and Emily mentions that this is not the reason. She states that it's because Ryouta reminds her of her mother, and Emily then remembers the time when her mother was still alive. She was also an adventurer, and both of them went to dungeons together. Emily's mother then saves some adventurers from danger, and she tells them that they should understand what they are capable of before taking on a dungeon. She then mentions that that's enough lecturing, and it's time to live it up. Emily states that if her mother ever found someone in trouble, she would help them, lecture them, and have fun with them. She states that her mother was strong, but one day she found some adventurers running away from a stray dragon, and she told Emily that everything will be alright, and she will take care of this. Emily understood, and her mother then slayed the dragon, but she took a lot of damage. Emily started to cry seeing this, and her mother wondered if everyone else is alright. Emily told her that they are fine, and her mother mentioned that she is glad. She then asked Emily to not cry, and she told her to take her out of here and get her to the others. She stated that this way her belongings won't turn into strays, and Emily then took her out. On the way her mother asked Emily if she would still continue to go into dungeons after this, and she told Emily to not be too reckless. Emily states that her mother was concerned for everyone right up until the end, and she mentions that her mother was a hero. She thinks that Ryouta is the same way, and he has done so much to help others until now. She states that it's now her turn to help him, and the scene cuts to Ryouta trying to use normal bullets on the monsters while running away, but the bullets don't work on them. Emily and Eve then come to his rescue, and Ryouta notices that there is an entire army of Nihonium strays behind them. He wonders why there are Nihonium monsters here, and Emily states that they have brought more bullets for Ryouta. Ryouta then kills the strays to collect bullets, and meanwhile Emily and Eve keep the silicon monsters busy. Ryouta then gathers the bullets, and he mentions that they can leave the rest to him. The scene then cuts to Ryouta and the others coming out of the dungeon, and Reese is glad to see them. He notices that Rosa is injured, and he thinks that he can't use magic to heal her due to this storm. Ryouta states that there is no need to worry about that, and the scene cuts to Rosa healing up. Eve wonders what that was, and Ryouta states that it was a healing bullet. We then find out that the white bullets are healing bullets, and Ryouta mentions that he didn't have time to heal her in the dungeon. Rosa then wakes up, and Reese thanks Ryouta and his party for saving her. Reese and Rosa then leave, and Ryouta is glad that he was able to save her. He mentions that he is impressed that Emily had the idea to bring Nihonium monsters into Silicon, and Emily states that it wasn't a big deal. She mentions that she just imitated Ryouta, and Ryouta states that she really saved his skin. Ryouta then thanks Eve as well, and Eve states that she would rather have carrots. Ryouta then wonders if they want to get something to eat before they go home, and Emily states that they should head straight home. Ryouta mentions that Emily would have to cook that way, and Emily mentions that she enjoys cooking. Emily then states that she is enjoying her current life very much, and she wonders if her mother is watching her. The story continues, and Ryouta brings some watermelons to the swallow's gratitude, and he asks Urza to appraise them. Urza states that she will prepare for it right away, but Eric comes there, and she mentions that there is no need for that as she will appraise them right here. Eric then tastes the watermelon, and she likes it. She states that it makes her feel like she is on the beach with the sun blazing on her, and seeing her reaction the others get interested in it as well. Urza then asks Ryouta to let her sell these watermelons under an exclusive contract as well, and Ryouta agrees. He thinks that he now has another reliable source of income, and Urza then remembers that watermelons are dropped on level 5 of Telulu, and she wonders if Ryouta has already gotten his license. She explains that the license gives him permission to explore dungeon levels lower than level 6, and it works on all dungeons across the world since dungeons get dangerous every 5 levels. She states that different towns have different policies about it, and in Sekiro there is a new license after every 5 levels. Traders aren't permitted to buy drops from these levels if the adventurer doesn't have a license, and Ryouta thinks that this would stop people from putting themselves in danger to get valuable drops. The scene then cuts to Ryouta out to get his license, and he goes to an office. He tells the man working there that he is here to get a license, and the man asks Ryouta about his achievements. Ryouta states that he regularly brings back watermelons from the 5th level of Telulu, and the man then takes out a muskmelon, and he guides Ryouta to a room. The man then states that this melon was dropped at level 6 or lower in Telulu, and if Ryouta can defeat the stray that the melon produces, then he will pass. The melon then turns into a steel slime, and Emily states that steel slimes are hard, and even blades can't do anything to them. Ryouta tries to fight the slime with his fists, but his fists don't have any effect on it, and Ryouta thinks that this is going to be interesting. Ryouta then hits the slime with a fire bullet, and he then hits it with an ice bullet. Ryouta breaks the ice, and the slime breaks down. Emily wonders how Ryouta did this, and Ryouta states that it happened due to temperature difference. He mentions that increasing and quickly decreasing the temperature of metal makes it brittle. The examiner then gives Ryouta his approval for his license for level 6 and below. Ryouta then receives his license, and the examiner states that he has been working here for the last 10 years, but he has never seen someone as impressive as Ryouta. Ryouta then thinks that he has to make some preparation, and he tells Emily that he needs her help. A few days later, Ryouta and Emily go to an isolated place, and they try to make a stray spawn from a tuna. Emily mentions that she was confused when Ryouta told her that he wanted her to buy tuna, and Ryouta mentions that this is something that he wanted to do. The tuna then turns into a stray gorilla, like the one they fought before, and Ryouta uses a freezing bullet to immobilize the stray. He then uses regular bullets to kill it, and Emily can't believe that Ryouta defeated the gorilla so easily this time. The gorilla then drops a gun, and Ryouta thinks that now he can dual wield. He thinks that this will make bullet combos a lot easier, and seeing Ryouta with 2 guns, Emily hopes that he doesn't turn evil. Ryouta mentions that he will be fine as long as Emily is around, and the scene then cuts to Ryouta at the swallow's gratitude. He notices that Urza is looking down, and he wonders if something is bothering her. Urza states a strike has been called, and she mentions that the Adalbert group is occupying level 6 of Silicon, and this is the only place they can get rice. They are demanding to increase the price of rice in Sekiro, otherwise they are not going to sell it to them. Ryouta understands, and the scene cuts to him at Silicon. He notices that Neptune is there as well, and he wonders what Neptune is doing here. Neptune states that he is also here due to Adalbert, and he mentions that Adalbert has done this many times. He states that the people in town are finally out of patience, and the Neptune group is here to destroy them. Ryouta then asks Neptune if he would let him handle this, and the scene changes to Ryouta entering level 6 of Silicon. He meets the members of Adalbert there, and they tell Ryouta that entry to this level is forbidden. Ryouta then takes out his guns, and the members of Adalbert summon more of their people. Ryouta then simultaneously fires 2 bullets, and this knocks out every member of Adalbert. Seeing this, Neptune wonders what Ryouta just did, and Ryouta tells him that he used a healing bullet. He mentions that these bullets only heal wounds, but when 2 of them are used at once it works as a sleeping bullet, and it puts the target to sleep. Ryouta states that this potential came with his dual guns, and he mentions that he tested all kinds of possibilities with them. He used the combination of a fire bullet and an ice bullet, and he figured out that firing them together makes an erasing bullet. He also tried firing the same types of bullets at once, and he tried several other combinations. Ryouta then states that all they need to do now is to carry them out, and he mentions that Neptune should help him as he is already here. Outside, an old guy notices Ryouta, and the scene cuts to Ryouta meeting with that old guy. He introduces himself as Clint Gray, the dungeon chief of Sekiro, and he states that he holds a high position in this city. He mentions that he would like to ask a favor of Ryouta, and he states that he would like to enlist Ryuta's aid in a battle for a new dungeon against the neighboring city of Hetero. Clint then explains that dungeons east of Sekiro have meat as drops, and Hetero is a city of livestock. A new dungeon was recently discovered halfway between hetero and secro, and the dungeon has half vegetable drops and half meat drops. He states that secro could claim the dungeon if the ratio of vegetables were higher, and Ryouta can't believe that dungeon ownership is decided by the ratio of their drops. He wonders if it's necessary for the dungeon to belong to a city, and Clint states that every time a dropped item is purchased, a tax is charged, and due to this ownership of a dungeon makes a huge difference in economic health of a town. Clint then states that since this new dungeon has both vegetable and meat drops in equal ratios, they have decided to determine its ownership based on who gets more rare drops. This is why he chose Ryouta for this job, as he is renowned for his exceptional drop rates, and he states that he won't ask Ryouta to do this for free. He mentions that Ryouta would get a monetary reward even if he loses, and if he wins then all the items he receives henceforth will be exempt from taxation. The scene then cuts to Ryouta in town, and he thinks that he feels good that his work was recognized, and he wonders what he is going to need on this trip. He thinks that it feels like he is getting ready for a business trip, and he thinks that back in his original world he pushed himself too hard, but now he has Emily with him. Afterwards, Ryouta tells Emily about this, and he asks her to come along on this trip with him. Emily states that she won't be of any use on this trip, and Ryouta mentions that it's not true, and he asks Emily to come with him. Emily agrees, and the scene then cuts to Ryouta and Emily out on their trip. They take a short break somewhere along their way, and Ryouta notices that the entire area around them is desolate. Emily mentions that it's like this everywhere other than the towns and dungeons, and Ryouta thinks that this world is really weird. Emily then draws something on the ground, and she states that this will help cheer someone up when they come across it on their journey. Ryouta notices that Emily has drawn a bean sprout, and Ryouta then draws a bean sprout as well, and they continue on their journey. At night they stop for another break, and they set up a tent. Ryouta can't believe that Emily's bag had a tent this big in it, and Emily states that she will show Ryouta her real skills. She tells Ryouta to fetch some water, and while fetching water Ryouta hears some strange noises coming from the tent. He then returns to the tent, and he notices that there is a lot of furniture in the tent. He observes that there is food as well, and he thinks that all this doesn't make sense. He asks Emily how she carried all this, and Emily states that she packed it all in her backpack. He wonders what kind of backpack Emily has, and Emily then states that she also has dessert after dinner, and seeing dessert Ryouta abandoned all thought. Emily then mentions that she will go and burn their trash, and Ryouta wonders why she is not just throwing it away. Emily states that in town there are people who incinerate the trash for them, but here they have to do it themselves. She mentions that trash can also spawn strays, and the strays spawned by trash are different and more powerful than normal strays. Ryouta then gets an idea, and he tries to spawn a stray from trash. A Frankenstein then spawns there, and Ryouta uses a combo of 2 fire bullets to kill it. The stray drops something, and the scene cuts to Ryouta spawning a stray sleepy slime, and he tests out his new bullet which curves and hits the slime. Emily wonders what kind of bullet that was, and Ryouta states that it was a homing bullet, and it can chase its target. Afterwards Ryouta and Emily arrive at the new dungeon ceiling, and they notice that it's really busy there. Ryouta then notices that there is a lot of trash piled up around the dungeon, and Emily thinks that it shouldn't be a problem with this many people around. They then notice that a girl is burning the trash with her magic, and Emily thinks that she must be in charge of taking care of the trash, but as soon as she burns the trash, more trash piles up. Ryouta then notices dark circles under the girl's eyes, and he states that they have to stop this girl. He thinks that these are the eyes of someone who has put in too much overtime, and Emily then asks the girl if she is all right. The girl states that she is fine, and Emily tells her that she should rest. The girl mentions that she can't do that, as there is still a lot of trash to burn, and the girl then tries to burn more trash, but she starts to feel weak, and she collapses. The story continues, and Ryouta asks the girl if she is all right. The girl states that she is fine, and Ryouta mentions that she shouldn't use magic anymore. The girl states that they are depending on her to do this, so she has to do it, and Ryouta mentions that he has seen people who are overwhelmed by the responsibility, and in the end their health crashes, and some of them even die. He then shoots the girl with a sleeping bullet, and he states that it's best if she gets some sleep. The scene then cuts to the girl waking up in Emily's tent, and she can't believe that it's already this late. She notices that the trash is starting to turn into strays, but Ryouta takes care of them all with his double fire bullets. Ryouta then thinks that he just had a great haul of homing bullets, and Emily directs the others to bring their trash here. Emily then notices that the girl is awake, and Ryouta wonders if she is hungry. The scene then cuts to them having dinner, and Ryouta tells her to not worry about the trash as he has moved the tent closer to it so it won't spawn any strays. The girl then eats the food, and she thinks that it tastes great. She starts crying, and Emily mentions that she is just like Ryouta, as he also cries after eating something delicious. Emily then asks the girl her name, and the girl introduces herself as Celeste. After dinner they have a conversation, and Ryouta finds out that the dungeon drops are tax-exempt until the ownership of the dungeon is decided. Emily thinks that this must be why so many adventurers are here, and Celeste mentions that it is, and they produce lots of trash every day. Ryouta states that this is way more trash for a single person to handle, and he mentions that they will help her out when they have time. Celeste thanks them, and she states that this is the only work she can do, and she then falls asleep. Seeing this, Ryouta thinks that getting the burden off of her shoulder must have made her relax, and this made her fall asleep. The next day Celeste burns trash, and Ryouta notices that her magic has gotten stronger. Emily states that she also looks prettier today, and Celeste then thanks them for letting her rest. She mentions that her magic has gone back to normal thanks to them, and Ryouta states that it will go back to the way it was if she overworks herself. Emily states that she can stay in their tent until all this is over, and Celeste states that this tent is far too comfortable. Ryouta mentions that this is due to Emily's unique skill, and Celeste states that it's an incredible skill, and she mentions that she will stay with them for a while. Ryouta and Emily then mention that they will be going to the Sekro headquarters now, and they will be back by lunchtime. On the way, Ryouta thinks that this place is like a little town of its own, and he notices a jewelry seller there. Ryouta notices that the most expensive thing he has is a ring worth 1 million pilos, and Emily thinks that she likes rings, but they are too expensive for her to buy. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at Sekro's headquarters, and the man in charge introduces himself as Duke. He then shows Ryouta a rough sketch of the new dungeon ceiling, and Ryouta notices that the dungeon has 10 floors. Duke mentions that vegetable drops are found on the odd floors of the dungeon, and meat drops are found at the even floors. He states that it has an even split of the two, so they have decided to compete with the number of rare drops acquired on their respective floors within the time limit. Ryouta then states that he will go in, and Duke mentions that Ryouta doesn't need to do that. He states that the adventurers will look for the rare monsters, and they will capture them alive and wait for him. He mentions that this is the most efficient way, and Ryouta can't believe that they formed the entire plan around him. A man then comes into the tent and he mentions that they have found a rare monster on level 1. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at level 1 of Sealan, and Duke mentions that they can kill the monster as long as it's in their custody. Ryouta then notices some people there, and he wonders who they are. Duke states that the old man is Harvard, and he holds the same position in hetero as him. Next to him is Eugene. He is renowned for his skills, but his plant drop rates are F. Ryouta wonders why did they bring an adventurer with F-ranked drop rates, and Duke mentions that if he defeats rare plant monsters, then they won't drop anything, and it will reduce their chances of getting rare drops. Ryouta then shoots the rare monster, but the monster doesn't die, and Harvard thinks that this monster won't die unless they destroy the core hidden somewhere inside of its body. Eugene thinks that he knows where the core is, and the monster then manages to get away from the adventurer's grasp. Eugene then goes after the monster, but before he can kill it, Ryouta destroys the core with his homing bullets. They then get the rare drops, bean sprouts, and Duke states that they are off to a great start. Duke then gives Ryouta his reward, and Ryouta is surprised that he is getting this much. Duke mentions that this is an appropriate amount for Ryouta's contribution, and he states that Ryouta can also take the rare drop with him. Ryouta then goes back to the tent at night, and Emily states that Ryouta had a long day, and she thinks that he must have had a hard time conquering the dungeon. Ryouta mentions that he did, and Hetero was even using an adventurer with F-ranked drop rates to sabotage them. Ryouta then states that he actually finished early, and he is late because he made a stop. Ryouta then gives Emily the ring she saw this morning, and this surprises Emily. She mentions that she can't accept this as it's too expensive, and Ryouta states that it's fine as he got a good pay, and he was even able to make good money on the first level of the dungeon. Ryouta then states that Emily is special to her, and this is why he wants to give this ring to her, and Emily accepts the ring. Emily mentions that no present has ever made her this happy, and the scene then cuts to Emily checking her stats in the dungeon. She notices that all of her abilities are boosted by 1 rank, and she wonders what's going on here. Ryouta then explains that the guy who sold the ring to him had a lot of them, so he got curious as to what kind of stray would emerge from it. The stray then emerged, but defeating it gave him the same ring with an added effect. Ryouta states that they should test it out, and they go to level 3 of Sealan. They find a tray ant there, and Emily kills it. She gets chicken breast as a drop, and she states that she always wanted to get a meat drop even if it's only once. She then mentions that her animal drop rates are F, and F is just 1 rank below E, but it makes a huge difference. She states that people with F drop rates are called F final, and some dungeons don't even allow them entry. Ryouta then comes across the rare monster of this floor, and it attacks Emily. He tries to kill it, and Harvard tells him to go ahead, as Ryouta has high drop rates, and this will benefit them. Ryouta thinks that he can't kill it as this will even hetero score with Sekiro, but he also can't let their adventurer kill it as his drop rates seem high. He wonders what he should do, and Emily then gives Ryouta her ring, and she goes to take care of the rare monster. Ryouta understands what she is trying to do, and he uses his freezing bullets to freeze the rare monster, and Emily takes it out. The monster doesn't drop anything, and Harvard and the others then leave. Ryouta then gives Emily her ring back, and he mentions that she did great to come up with that plan on the spot. The scene then cuts to Duke finding out about this, and he commends Ryouta for his quick thinking. Ryouta mentions that it was actually her partner's doing, and Duke states that she deserves some reward money then. Duke then mentions that they have a bit of a problem, and he states that Hetero's backup adventurers will be here by tonight. He mentions that this will triple their numbers, and they plan to fill up the odd-numbered floors with F-rank drop rates adventurers to sabotage them. Duke thinks that their only choice is to fight fire with fire, and Ryouta mentions that they should finish this by the end of the day. He states that if they get the rare drops on floor 3, 5, 7, and 9, then at the very least they will be tied with them, and Duke mentions that they could actually win if they did that. Ryouta mentions that they should raise the money reward for finding rare drops to 10 million, and Duke states that this is too much, and if they can't get rare drops even after this then it will be a huge loss. Ryouta states that he has a 100% chance of getting rare drops, and he mentions that he will pay Duke back with the same amount if he doesn't get a drop after killing the rare monsters. Duke agrees hearing this, and the scene then cuts to Ryouta fighting a rare monster which looks like a hydra. Duke states that they have come really far, and we see that Ryouta has already killed the rare monsters on level 3, 5, and 7. Duke then tells Ryouta that the Hydra's weakness is one of its heads, and Ryouta then uses his homing bullets to destroy all of the Hydra's heads, and he gets some mushrooms as the drop item. Duke then commends Ryouta, and he mentions that they can't lose now, and he goes to report this to headquarters. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at level 1 of Sealan, and he thinks that he should try to make as much money as possible as he did make a big purchase recently. Ryouta is then surrounded by adventurers from Hetero, and he asks them what they want. Eugene mentions that all of these guys and him have F-rank drop rates, and thanks to Ryouta they are no longer needed. A mage then uses magic on Ryouta, and Eugene mentions that this magic has the same effect as a magic storm, and Ryouta won't be able to use his special bullets now. Ryouta then uses his bare fists to beat all the adventurers, and he shows them that he can still use his bullets. He mentions that he has used them in a magic storm before, and he then uses his healing bullets to heal all the adventurers he just took down. Ryouta then tells Eugene that he understands how they feel, but he won't lose to them as he has someone waiting for him to come back home. Eugene mentions that he envies Ryouta for having someone like that, and Ryouta states that he might also find someone like that someday. Ryouta then goes back to the tent, and he states that he is home, and Emily mentions that she can see that. The story continues, and Emily has made lots of food. Ryouta thinks that Emily is cooking too much, and Celeste states that Ryouta has done well. Ryouta mentions that the ownership of Sealan still hasn't been officially decided, and once the decision is made, this will truly be over, and they can leave for Sekiro with nothing to worry about. Emily then brings a cake, and Celeste wonders how she got a cake. Emily states that she cooked it over campfire, and Ryouta tells Celeste to not think too hard about this. The next morning Ryouta notices that Celeste is burning some trash, and she is using a powerful spell to do that. She then collapses due to magic loss, and Ryouta catches her. He then heals her with a healing bullet, and Celeste gets embarrassed to be in his arms. She pushes him away, and she wonders why her heart is pounding so hard. She then hits herself to try to calm down, and she states that she is calm now. Ryouta then asks Celeste if she needed to use such a powerful spell to burn that trash, as there wasn't much of it, and Celeste mentions that level 3 fire magic, Inferno, is the only spell she can use. Ryouta wonders if she can't use level 1 or level 2 spells, and Celeste states that she can't. Some people then bring more trash there, and Ryouta burns it with his fire bullet, and he mentions that he will help Celeste from now on, as his work is done for now. Celeste thanks Ryouta, and the next day they notice that a lot of trash has piled up. Ryouta wonders if this is how it always is, and Celeste states that today is special as the Dungeon Master has shown up. Ryouta wonders what that is, and Emily mentions that a Dungeon Master is the boss of a dungeon, and they only show up once every few months. They are very strong, and no one is allowed in the dungeon now because of it, so everyone is stress-eating. Celeste gets depressed hearing this, and Emily tells her to relax as a team to get rid of the Dungeon Master will soon gather. Ryouta then tells Celeste to rest, and he mentions that he will take care of the rest. Celeste tries to refuse, but Ryouta states that she will pass out again if she keeps this up, and he tells her to just go ahead and rest. Ryouta then tells Emily to take care of Celeste, and Emily takes her away. The next day, the group notices that things are still the same with the trash, and Emily states that it will be alright, as the team must have already been assembled by now. Ryouta states that he will go check on how things stand, and he mentions that Celeste will feel better knowing that there is an end in sight. Ryouta then goes to check it out, and Celeste asks Emily why Ryouta is so kind to her. Emily states that this is just the sort of person he is, and she mentions that he can't ignore someone who needs help. She states that it was the same in Sekiro, and Celeste remembers that Ryouta is going to leave once his business here is over. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at Sekiro's headquarters, and he notices that Neptune is there. Duke explains that they have asked the Neptune group to take care of the Dungeon Master, and Ryouta asks Neptune to get rid of the Dungeon Master as soon as possible as he has a friend who is in trouble. Neptune states that he would love to do that, but they have a bit of a problem. Duke explains that according to their contract with Hetero, if a Dungeon Master appears, the two towns must join forces to defeat it. He states that they have decided to send the Neptune group, but Hetero isn't making any efforts to pick anyone. Ryouta wonders why, and a girl with Neptune mentions that if a Dungeon Master sticks around for too long then the whole ecology of the dungeon can change, and if the ecology changes, then the item drops of the dungeon will also change, and Duke states that this is what Hetero is after, as they know that the dungeon is already in the hands of Sekiro as things stand right now. Ryouta then states that he will go in alone to take care of the Dungeon Master, and Duke mentions that he can't allow this, and another girl with Neptune states that there is a rule according to which only a group of 3 adventurers or more with stats ranked A or higher are allowed to take on a Dungeon Master. Ryouta then asks Neptune to team up with him, but Neptune states that he can't as he has been summoned here as part of the joint force. Ryouta then leaves to check around if someone else is willing to help him with this, and Neptune states that this won't work out as the adventurers here only want to make profit, and they are not ambitious enough to take on a Dungeon Master. Ryouta then returns back to his tent, and Emily states that she will go with Ryouta to defeat the Dungeon Master. Ryouta mentions that the two of them can't go on their own, and Celeste then states that she will be coming with them. Ryouta wonders what will happen to the trash, and Celeste states that she found someone willing to help. Eugene then comes there, and Celeste states that this is the person she was talking about. Eugene mentions that he isn't doing this to apologize for the last time, and he states that he only agreed to do this because Celeste offered to pay him for it. Ryouta wonders if Eugene will be able to handle it on his own, and he then notices that the other F-drop rate adventurers are helping him out. Emily then mentions that she can let them handle things here while they head to the dungeon, and Ryouta states that just having 3 people isn't enough, they all need to have A rank stats. Celeste states that there is no problem, and we see that her intelligence and will are ranked A. She mentions that her drop rates are terrible, but her stats are enough to allow Ryouta entry into the dungeon. Ryouta wonders if Celeste is sure about this, and Celeste states that she just wants to help Ryouta. The scene then cuts to them on the first level of Sealand, and Ryouta notices that there are no monsters around here. Emily explains that all other monsters go away while the Dungeon Master is around, and due to this there are no drops to find. She states that this is why they have to defeat the Dungeon Master soon, and the Dungeon Master then shows up there. Celeste states that she has heard of this creature, and she mentions that it's a bicorn. Emily then tries to attack the bicorn, but it has a barrier around him. Ryouta states that they just need to keep on pushing, and Celeste backs him up with her magic. This keeps the bicorn in place, and Ryouta hits it with a double bullet, and this destroys the barrier. Emily uses this chance to land a hit, and the bicorn then activates its barrier again. Ryouta then tells Celeste to repeat the same chain of attacks, and meanwhile Duke and Neptune find out that Ryouta has entered the dungeon. Duke states that this is bad as the bicorn's power is a great threat, and the scene changes to Ryouta's group still fighting the bicorn. Ryouta thinks that this monster is really resilient, and Emily mentions that they will just have to keep going until it falls. The bicorn then uses an area of effect spell, and this makes all of Ryouta's stats except his health and strength to go down by 2 ranks. All of Emily's stats also go down by 2 ranks, and the same thing happens with Celeste, and due to this Celeste magic power completely depletes. Ryouta thinks that Celeste shouldn't push herself any farther, and he asks Emily to take care of her. He states that he will finish this somehow, and Celeste apologizes for slowing them down. Ryouta mentions that she did more than enough, and he asks her to rest for a while, as nothing is as important as her life. Celeste thinks that no one has ever said something like that to her, and she thinks that people have only said harsh things to her over the years, as she can only use level 3 magic. She thinks that she accepted it as normal, but Ryouta told her that this is not true, and she never knew that someone's approval could make her so happy. Celeste then thinks that she can't afford to rest, and she then uses her fire magic to take out the bicorn's barrier, and Ryouta uses Emily's hammer to take the bicorn down by destroying its horns. Ryouta then checks up on Celeste, and she wonders if they defeated the bicorn. Ryouta states that they did, and he mentions that they couldn't do it without her. Celeste states that she is happy to be of help, and Ryouta then gives Celeste the item that the bicorn dropped. Celeste mentions that she can't accept something this valuable, and Emily tells her to take it as she earned it herself. Celeste then finds out that the horns can allow her to use level 1 magic with no limitations, and Ryouta states that him and Emily talked this over, and they thought that she should be the one to have them. This makes Celeste cry, and the scene then cuts to Ryouta informing Duke that he has taken care of the Dungeon Master. Duke thinks that this is unbelievable, and he mentions that they should inform the other adventurers of this at once. The girls from Neptune's party then come there, and they state that it's amazing that Ryouta managed to defeat that bicorn. They mention that he has been blessed with wonderful companions, and Ryouta thinks that it's true. He then asks them where Neptune is, and we see that Neptune is having a talk with Harvard, and he states that because of him he lost his chance to fight with Ryouta. He asks Harvard what he is going to do about this, and the scene then cuts to Celeste using level 1 magic to burn some trash. Ryouta then comes there, and Celeste states that she never thought that she would be able to use level 1 magic. Ryouta mentions that he is happy for her, and Celeste states that she has heard that this dungeon belongs to Sekro now, and Ryouta mentions that it does, and his job here is finally over. Celeste then asks Ryouta when he is going to leave for Sekro, and Ryouta states that he will be leaving tomorrow. Ryouta then asks Celeste if she would like to come with him, and Celeste wonders why Ryouta is asking this of her. Ryouta states that after hearing what the girls of Neptune's party said, he thought that it would be nice to start a party of his own, and Celeste states that they should do that, and she agrees to join it. Emily also agrees to this, and she states that this sounds like fun. The story continues with Eve eating carrots, and she thinks that these aren't good enough. She states that she wants to eat Ryuta's carrots, and she hopes that he comes back soon. Ryouta then returns to Sekro, and everyone notices Celeste and they think that she is gorgeous. Ryouta then comes across Urza, and she wonders who the girl with Ryouta is. Ryouta states that this is Celeste, and he is going to form a party called Ryouta Family, and she is a member of that party. Urza is surprised to hear this, and she mentions that she has heard about all the great things that Ryouta did in Sealand, and she is thrilled that one of her regulars has become this famous. Urza then states that she wanted to ask Ryouta a favor regarding the Harvest Festival, and she asks him to drop by the shop when he has time. Ryouta then wonders what the Harvest Festival is, and Celeste mentions that he can leave gathering information to her. The scene then cuts to Celeste telling Ryouta that she and Emily went out and got some information about the Harvest Festival, and she mentions that this festival is held annually in Sekro. Goods found in Sekro's dungeons are gathered and put on display, and they turn those goods into strays and kill them in an arena. Celeste mentions that the point is to show off the goods and the monsters, and she then wonders what they are doing here. Ryouta then explains that after he parted ways with the two of them, he went to level 3 of Nihonium to max out his speed, but he was finished sooner than he expected, so he ventured into the 4th level of Nihonium, and the drops there helped him increase his vitality. He put the extra seeds he found in that box, and Celeste thinks that this will spawn strays. Strays then show up from the box, and Ryouta goes to fight them. Celeste worries about Ryouta, and Emily states that she doesn't need to worry as it's going to be fine. Ryouta then obtains binding bullets after slaying the strays, and Celeste mentions that she had no idea that strays drop items. Ryouta then mentions that he hasn't told this to anyone, and he wants Celeste to keep quiet about this as well. Celeste then wonders why Ryouta told her about this, and Ryouta mentions that it's because she is one of them now. Ryouta then hears some explosion sounds coming from the town, and returns to the town to check this out. Someone in the town tells him that a drop has turned into a stray, and he tells Ryouta and the others to run. Ryouta then comes across the stray, and Emily attacks it with her hammer, but it doesn't even budge. Ryouta then also tries to move it, but it still doesn't budge, and Ryouta then throws it up, and he shoots it with a binding bullet. He then takes the monster out using his gun, and the monster drops some kind of bag. Ryouta then checks up on Emily, and Emily states that she is fine, but her hammer has been damaged. Ryouta mentions that they can just buy a new one, and Emily states that it would just be wasted on her. She then tries to straighten the hammer, but it breaks, and Celeste states that they should buy her a new one tomorrow. Afterwards at night we see that Eve is at the scene of battle, and she finds out that it was Ryouta who defeated this stray. The next day Ryouta and his party meet a weapons dealer named Smith, and Ryouta wonders what Smith wants with them. Smith states that he heard that Emily's hammer broke while their party was hunting that stray yesterday, and he was hoping to offer Emily a new hammer. He states that Ryouta family is getting much attention lately, and he wants to lay claim to the slogan that he provided Emily, one of the members, with her beloved hammer. Emily states that she doesn't want that, and Smith assures Emily that she won't suffer due to it. He states that he will provide her the hammer free of charge, and Emily then mentions that she can't wait to do business with him. Smith then states that they should get right to the production process, and he mentions that Emily can tell him if she has any requests. The scene then cuts to Ryouta meeting the princess's guards on level 1 of Nihonium, and he wonders if they are working on airboxes again. One of the guards states that their boxes aren't selling so well lately, and Ryouta mentions that the people might be tired of the airboxes. He states that they should sell something else, and the guard wonders what they can sell. Ryouta then states that they can sell the princess's panties, and the guard thinks that this is a great idea, and Ryouta states that they can't actually do that. Ryouta then mentions that they can sell rings instead, and he states that this will be right in line with the princess's elegant image. Ryouta then notices that the princess is overrun with monsters, and he steps in and saves her. The princess then thanks Ryouta for saving her, and Ryouta states that he just did what anyone else would have done. The guard then mentions that to thank Ryouta for this and giving them the idea for the rings, he would like to present him with their first ring. Ryouta tries to deny him, but the princess states that she wants to give Ryouta her first, and Ryouta agrees. Elsewhere we see that Emily is customizing her hammer with Smith, and Eve then comes there, and she wonders where Ryouta is. Emily states that he has gone to Nihonium, and he was going to stop by Telyalu, and then head to Urza's shop. We then see that Ryouta is at level 1 of Telyalu, and he thinks that this bag he got earlier sure came in handy just now. We then find out that this bag can automatically pick up drops and store them, and Ryouta thinks that people would have seen him getting these seeds if he didn't have this. We then see that Eve is searching for Ryouta at Nihonium, but she can't find him. Eve then heads to the other locations, but she can't find Ryouta anywhere. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at the Swallow's Gratitude, and he sells some bamboo shoots, and he wonders what was the favor that Urza wanted to ask him regarding the Harvest Festival. Urza then states that she would like Ryouta to collect drops that are difficult to get, and Ryouta wonders if she means rare drops. Urza states that she does, and she mentions that she will pay Ryouta for them, and she gives Ryouta a list of the drops that he needs to get. She then gives Ryouta the money for the bamboo shoots, and Ryouta notices that there is a lot more small change in the money. The other receptionist states that it's because the person in charge of the dungeon that drops money was arrested for corruption, and due to this their money circulation is lagging. Ryouta can't believe that money is also dropped in dungeons, and the scene then cuts to Ryouta trying to spawn a stray from some money. A monster bird then spawns, and Ryouta tries to shoot it, but the bird dodges his bullets. Ryouta then uses homing bullets to shoot the bird, and the bird drops a potion which can increase a person's plant-based drop rates by 3 ranks for 10 minutes. Ryouta thinks that this won't be of any use to him as his plant-based drop rates are S, and Eve then comes there, and she mentions that she has finally found Ryouta. She asks him to give her carrots, and the scene then cuts to Ryouta giving her some carrots in level 2 of Telulu. Ryouta then states that Eve should ask her party mates if she wants carrots, and Eve states that Ryuta's carrots taste better, and she mentions that she has left her party. Ryouta wonders why, and Eve mentions that it's because their goals didn't align. She states that she wanted carrots and they wanted other stuffs, and she mentions that she is strong so she is fine by herself. Eve then states that party mates are a hassle, and she then tells Ryouta a story from her past. In her story we see a young Eve adventuring in a dungeon called Megan with her party, and her party members tell her to not only eat meat, and have some vegetables as well. Eve states that she doesn't like vegetables, and she leaves when her party members pester her. Eve then thinks that her party members are annoying, and she then defeats a death buffalo and it drops a human boy. The boy then notices another death buffalo, and Eve states that it's the monster of this floor. She then defeats the death buffalo, and it drops a carrot. The boy is amazed to see this, and he mentions that he also wants to defeat a monster, and he asks Eve to teach him. Eve then fights another death buffalo, and she deals damage to it, and she lets the boy deal the final blow. The monster then drops a carrot, and Eve asks the boy to throw it away, as she hates carrots. The boy mentions that Eve shouldn't be so picky about foods, and he shoves the carrot into Eve's mouth, and Eve thinks that this is delicious. The boy then gives Eve the rest of the carrot, and Eve states that the boy is good, and they should form a party. The boy then disappears, and Eve states that from then on, she turned into a carrot-loving rabbit. She mentions that it's all because of that boy, and this is why she thinks that parties are bad. Ryouta thinks that Eve is too extreme, and he mentions that Eve should get her own carrots if she loves them this much. Eve states that her plant drop rates are D, and her carrots taste yucky. Ryouta then mentions that he is just the thing for her, and he gives her the potion he got earlier. He tells her to drink it, and after drinking it Eve wonders if its effects are real. Ryouta states that Eve's plant drop rates should have gone up to rank A now, and he asks her to give it a try. Eve then defeats a sleepy slime, and she eats the carrot she gets, and she thinks that it's tasty. Eve then wonders where they sell this potion, and Ryouta states that nobody sells it, as it's an item that only he can get. Eve then asks Ryouta to let her join his party, and Ryouta states that she said that party mates are bad. Eve states that she was wrong, and she mentions that she will do anything. She then grabs Ryuta's legs asking him to let her join, and Ryouta agrees. Ryouta then goes back to his house, and Emily states that her new hammer is all done. She then notices Eve with Ryouta, and Ryouta states that Eve will be joining their party, and Emily is happy to hear this. The story continues, and in the morning Ryouta notices that Celeste is not feeling well. Emily mentions that Celeste's head is hurting, and Celeste states that it's because of the ongoing magic storm. Celeste mentions that her head throbs with pain whenever there is a magic storm, and Ryouta can't believe that the storms make the magic users feel this bad. Celeste mentions that she will be fine as long as she goes about her day as usual, and she states that she will feel better after the storm passes. Ryouta then mentions that they should look for a bigger house today instead of going to the dungeon, and he thinks that they should look for a house which won't make Celeste feel sick during magic storms. Ryouta then looks for such houses, and their agent shows them a house which meets all of their criteria. After entering the house, Celeste's headache clears up, and she mentions that she didn't know that there were houses with such effects. They then check out the kitchen, and Emily thinks that it's really big. Emily then wonders how much this costs per month, and the agent mentions that the rent is higher than the market price since it is built with magic storm blocking technology. He states that it's 400,000 pilos, and Ryouta mentions that they will take it. Celeste thinks that it's too pricey, and Ryouta states that a house where they can all smile was at the top of his list. He mentions that they should start moving in, and afterwards we see that they have moved to their new house, and Emily has cleaned the house up. Ryouta can't believe that Emily did all this in a single day, and Celeste thinks that Emily really is amazing. Ryouta then states that today they should follow the list of high-priced items that Urza gave him, and Eve asks him for carrots. Ryouta mentions that they can also get those, and the scene then cuts to them on level 7 of Telyalu. Ryouta notices that it's snowing in this level, and Celeste mentions that there are some dungeon floors where it can snow. Ryouta mentions that Celeste knows everything, and Celeste is happy to be praised by Ryouta. Ryouta and the others then notice the group Ryouta encountered before, and the leader of this group tells his party that they did a wonderful job. He mentions that he is moved by their efforts, and he states that he could feel their pain, and how hard they worked. His party members can't believe that their leader could also feel the pain they were going through, and Ryouta thinks that their brainwashing seems to be complete now. Ryuta's party then encounters a new type of slime, and Ryouta tries to hit it with his bullets, but only the first bullet does damage, and the rest of them don't. Celeste then tells Ryouta to stop, and she explains that this is a gut slime, and it becomes invincible when it's near death, and it doesn't take any damage from the last person to attack it. Celeste then defeats the gut slime, and Eve mentions that solo-proof floors are quite common. Celeste then mentions that Ryouta should leave doing the damage to them, and he should finish off the slimes. The team then works like this to defeat the gut slimes, and the slimes drop onions. Emily then asks Eve if she likes onions, and Eve mentions that she only likes carrots. Emily then mentions that she should make curry today, with onions, potatoes, and carrots, and Eve is happy to hear that there will be carrots in it. A different kind of slime then attacks Ryouta, and Celeste states that this is a high gut slime, and it still needs someone to finish it off just like the gut slime, but it can reflect attack in its near-death state. Emily thinks that they will have to wear it down carefully, and Eve mentions that they should let her handle this, as she has fought this monster before. Eve then damages the monster and Ryouta finishes it off. The monster drops a jewel, and it has the power to reflect some attacks. Ryouta then tests out the jewel on level 2 of Telyalu, and due to this the sleepy slime dies on its own. Ryouta thinks that it is convenient, but it's faster to kill the monsters himself. The scene then cuts to Ryouta selling the jewel to Urza, and Urza mentions that thanks to this her shop's rank and trust will go up again, and she mentions that she will give Ryouta 3 million pilos for this item. Ryouta thinks that it's a bit much, and Urza mentions that the prices are up right now due to the Harvest Festival. Ryouta and his party then leaves the Swallow's Gratitude, and a girl then enters the store, and she asks multiple adventurers to let her join their party, but they all refuse her. Afterwards, Ryouta goes to level 5 of Nihonium, and he fights a red skeleton there. He thinks that the red skeleton is really fast, but he manages to defeat it, and he finds out that the seeds on this level can increase his magic points. Ryouta then wonders how he can learn magic, and the scene cuts to Ryouta and Celeste out of the town, and Ryouta states that it cost him 3 million pilos to buy this item. Celeste then mentions that most people learn magic by leveling up, but since Ryouta can't level up, he will have to eat this magic fruit to learn a random spell. Ryouta then turns the fruit into a stray hoping that it would drop something even better, and the fruit turns into some kind of metal monster. The monster then takes the shape of Ryouta, and Ryouta fights it. Ryouta then thinks that this must be a type of monster that takes 80% specs of whatever it copies, and he defeats it by throwing it into the air, and shooting it with a bullet. The monster then drops the same fruit, but it now has 2 magic circles, and Ryouta then eats it. The scene then cuts to Emily finding out that Ryouta has learned 2 magic spells, and Ryouta shows her that one of them is Wind Cutter, and Emily wonders what's the other spell is like. Ryouta states that it's kind of weird, and he mentions that he will test it out on those monsters. Ryouta then uses the spell reservation on the slime, and Emily finishes the slimes off. Ryouta then uses the spell reservation on the slime, and Emily finishes the slime off. This gives Emily a lot of drop items, and Ryouta mentions that this spell can make his drop rates apply to whoever actually defeats the monster after he has cast the spell on that monster. He mentions that it's not that useful, as he needs to be present for it to work, and Emily states that this is not true, as this did help her increase her level. Celeste then mentions that when Ryouta uses this spell, someone other than him can finish off the monster, and it helps them level up. Ryouta thinks that he is glad that he got a spell which can help his friends, and afterwards Ryouta is in the town, and he notices that Urza is carrying a lot of things. He offers to help her, and he takes her to the Swallow's Gratitude. Ryouta then notices a girl inside the shop, and the old adventurer from before tells the girl that he will let her join his party. Urza then explains that this girl has been asking for adventurer companions lately, but everyone turns her down, as her max level is only 2. Ryouta then goes in, and he mentions that this girl will be joining his party instead. Urza then states that the girl is really lucky as she gets to join the famous party, Ryouta family, and she mentions that it's the hottest party in town right now. The other adventurers then think that this girl is really lucky, and the girl asks them if this party is really a big deal. They mention that it is, and the old adventurer leaves, and Ryouta asks the girl if she wants to join his party. The girl mentions that she does, and Ryouta asks her name. The girl mentions that it's Alice, and Ryouta then takes her to Nihonium to check her level. He notices that she only has a level of 1, and her stats are really bad. Ryouta then thinks that this is hopeless, and he thinks that she should be able to fight in this dungeon. He states that they should start with some leveling up, and they head into level 1 of Nihonium. Alice mentions that the air in here really takes her back, and she states that she was apparently born inside a dungeon. She mentions that she just popped out when her pregnant mom was working in the dungeon, and Ryouta is surprised to hear this. Ryouta then states that they should kill some monsters, and Alice mentions that she can sense some monsters this way. Ryouta heads that way, and he finds a horde of skeletons, and he can't believe that Alice can sense where the monsters are, and Ryouta then binds all the skeletons, and he tells Alice to kill them using a rock. Alice then kills them all using the rock, and they head outside to check if she has leveled up. Ryouta notices that she did level up, but it didn't make much difference in her stats. Alice then wonders if they can head inside again, and she mentions that earlier Bonesy told her to hurry back. They then head inside and Alice tells Ryouta to capture a skeleton which is apparently Bonesy. Ryouta catches it, and Alice mentions that it's telling her to defeat it. After Alice defeats the skeleton, it turns into a little skeleton, and Alice mentions that it's nice to have Bonesy with them. She mentions that Bonesy is going to fight with them from now on, and they then head to Telulu, and Bonesy defeats a slime. Ryouta wonders if the damage it took is going to heal, and Alice mentions that it heals automatically when he turns into his smaller form. Alice then states that Bonesy is calling her Big Sis since they were both born in the dungeon, and she mentions that Jiggly is calling her now. A slime which Alice named Jiggly then comes there, and Alice uses Bonesy to defeat it. Jiggly then also turns into a smaller form, and Ryouta thinks that Alice's naming sense is really weird. Alice then thanks Ryouta, and she mentions that she could only meet and befriend Bonesy and Jiggly because of him. Ryouta then heads back to his house with Alice, and he notices Eve eating some carrot hamburg steaks that Emily made, and Eve thinks that they are really good. Celeste then thinks that Bonesy and Jiggly are cute, and she states that she wants to snuggle them a little bit, but they both get scared of her. Emily wonders if Celeste likes cute things, and Celeste states that she does. Afterwards, Ryouta introduces Alice to everyone, and he wonders if anyone has any objections to her joining his party. Eve wonders if Alice likes carrots, and Alice states that she doesn't, and Eve mentions that she doesn't have any problems with her joining this party, as they won't be fighting over carrots. The rest of them also agree to this, and Ryouta mentions that this is how he gained another new ally. The story continues, and Ryouta notices that Emily is the only one in the house, and he wonders where is everyone else. Emily states that Celeste left for the dungeon this morning when she heard that there are massive amounts of carrots in Telulu, and Alice is living in her previous house, as Bonesy is scared of Celeste. Ryouta wonders why Emily didn't go to the dungeon with the others, and Emily states that she will be going to the Harvest Festival with Alice later, and show her around while they check out the festivities. She wonders if Ryouta would like to come along with them, and the scene cuts to Ryouta and Emily out to see the festival. Ryouta notices that Emily is really excited, and he thinks that this must be new to her since she used to live in the dungeon. Ryouta then states that they should spend today enjoying the heck out of this festival, and Emily then notices some bells in one of the stalls. Ryouta asks her which one she likes, and he buys it for her. Emily puts the bell on her hammer, and she thinks that now she can keep this with her at all times. Ryouta and Emily then meet up with Alice, and she mentions that she saw a weird stall over there. They head over to the stall, and they notice that they are selling experience points there. Ryouta asks the shopkeeper how this works, and the shopkeeper wonders if Ryouta has ever been to the Alkil dungeon. Ryouta states that he hasn't, and the shopkeeper mentions that there is a monster called the Plated Mouse there, and it's amazing. Defeating one gives them a lot of experience points, and if he defeats the strays spawned by these boxes, then he can get a level up in a heartbeat. Emily thinks that this sounds interesting, and Ryouta thinks that he and Alice can't increase their levels, but this might work for Emily. The scene then cuts to them spawning a plated mouse from the experience box, and Ryouta binds the mouse, and he uses reservation on it. Emily then defeats it, and the mouse gives her a level up, and it also drops a special bullet. Alice then thinks that strays aren't supposed to drop anything, and Ryouta mentions that this happened because his drop rates were applied to the monster. Ryouta then finds out that this is a strengthening bullet, and he tests out the bullet. He fires it, but nothing happens. Ryouta wonders if his gun is broken, and he tries to fire a normal bullet, and he notices that the power of his bullet has been increased. He then realizes that the strengthening bullet can strengthen the bullet fired after it, and he thinks that they should buy more experience boxes from that stall, and get more strengthening bullets. Ryouta then stocks up the strengthening bullets, and he wonders what they should do next. Ryouta then hears a commotion in town, and he notices that a stray is out of its cage. A girl is in the line of its attack, and Ryouta steps in, and he attacks the monster. He thinks that the monster should be defeated, but he notices that the monster has grown more powerful instead. Emily then also attacks the monster, and this just makes the monster more powerful. Ryouta then realizes that the monster is absorbing their attacks, and Neptune then comes there, and he states that Ryouta seems to be having some trouble. Ryouta states that they need to be smart about attacking this thing or people might get hurt, and Neptune wonders if Ryouta is going to turn tail and run. Ryouta states that he is not, and he then asks Neptune to help him out, and both the girls with Neptune then cast a support-type spell on him. This gives Neptune wings, and he states that today he is going to show Ryouta the power of the Neptune family. Ryouta then binds the monster, and Emily, and Ryouta and Neptune attack it together to defeat it. The mother of the girl Ryouta saved then thanks them, and she mentions that she got separated from her daughter in the festival crowd. The mother then tells her daughter to thank them as well, and the girl then thanks Ryouta, and she mentions that she is also going to be an adventurer when she grows up. Ryouta tells her to remember that hard work is always rewarded, and he mentions that he got this from a very dear friend of his. He states that they should both work hard together if they are going to be adventurers, and Celeste and Eve then show up there. Ryouta then states that Celeste was supposed to be in the dungeon, and Celeste mentions that she heard a ruckus in town when they were making a brief stop, and she came over to help them out, but it looks like they are already done here. Emily mentions that the Neptune group helped them out, and Neptune is surprised that Ryouta has also started a family of his own. Ryouta mentions that they are all important members of his family, and Neptune states that Ryouta should ditch them, and come join his family. Ryouta mentions that his answer will always be no, no matter how many times Neptune asks him, and Neptune states that he did get to fight with Ryouta, so he will be content with that for today. Neptune and the others then leave, and Ryouta states that he is glad that everyone is safe. Everyone then states that they are hungry, and Ryouta mentions that they should get something to eat from the stalls. They then roam around the festival, and they eat all kinds of snacks, and they also play some games. Alice also feeds Bonesy and Jiggly, and Celeste thinks that they look cute even while they are eating. They then notice that Eve is eating something other than carrots, and Eve states that bunnies also like meat. Celeste mentions that Eve did tell them a story about that before, and Alice mentions that she saw a stall over there which was selling carrot foods. Eve mentions that she is a gourmet, and she only eats delicious carrots, and Ryouta mentions that she should not be so picky, and she should eat a variety of foods. Eve mentions that a low level shouldn't be so impudent, and Emily thinks that the two of them get along really well. Everyone then eats some candy apples, and Alice mentions that she can sense a lot of monsters in that direction. Celeste states that it must be the arena if it's in that direction, and Ryouta mentions that the goods gathered for the festival are turned into strays there, and then they are killed. Celeste mentions that the fighters participate in pairs, and if they manage to defeat the monsters, they get a rare item as a prize. Ryouta thinks that he wants to try to get a rare item, and he thinks that they should join the tournament. Emily wonders who Ryouta is going to team up with, and Ryouta chooses to participate with Celeste. This makes Celeste surprised, and Ryouta states that he thought that she would be the best choice for this. Celeste wonders if this is like a confession, and Ryouta mentions that he chose her because she is always out gathering intel for him, and she knows a lot about monsters. This makes Celeste disappointed, and Ryouta wonders if there is some kind of problem. Celeste states that it's nothing, and the scene then cuts to Ryouta and Celeste fighting a gut slime in the arena. Celeste uses her Inferno spell on the slime, and Ryouta thinks that she is going a little harder than usual. Celeste mentions that Ryouta is just imagining things, and Ryouta then takes out the gut slime with his gun. Ryouta then mentions that it takes 2 people to defeat a gut slime, and he states that Celeste did good to master the art of leaving them with just enough HP. Celeste mentions that she is going to work even harder, and she wants to be as important as Emily is, as a teammate. Ryouta states that she already is, and this makes Celeste embarrassed. The scene then cuts to everyone out of the arena, and they think that the Harvest Festival was fun. Ryouta then asks Celeste what rare item they got, and Celeste shows the item to everyone. They wonder what this is, and Emily states that she has never seen something like this. Ryouta mentions that they are fireworks, and the scene then cuts to everyone lighting some fireworks. They think that these are amazing, and Ryouta thinks that he never thought that he would get to play with fireworks in this world. Everyone then thinks that they are really pretty, and they then burn all of them. Alice then states that this was her first time doing anything like a festival, and she then starts acting weirdly, and she starts heading somewhere saying that a new little one is calling her. Ryouta stops Alice, and the others wonder what happened to her. Alice states that she had the feeling that someone was calling her, and she mentions that it came from the direction of Nihonium. Celeste wonders if there is another monster she can befriend, and Eve states that she wants to befriend a monster which can give her infinite carrots. Emily mentions that there aren't any monsters like that, and Ryouta states that they should wait until tomorrow to check this out, and he asks Alice to stay with them tonight. Celeste is happy to hear this, and Ryouta asks her to not scare Bonesy and Jiggly too much. The next day Clint invites Ryouta to have a talk, and Ryouta wonders what's going on. Clint first tells Ryouta to have a seat, and he mentions that the dungeons aren't dropping anything since last night. He states that all the dungeons in Sekro have ceased to produce crops, and this has never happened before. He mentions that he doesn't even know how long this is going to last, and he asks Ryouta to investigate this. Ryouta wonders how he is going to do this, and Clint mentions that he knows that he is asking a lot out of Ryouta, but he is the only one they can rely on. Ryouta then states that he can't ignore this, and he mentions that he will do everything in his power to find out what's happening. The scene then cuts to Ryouta at level 2 of Telulu, and Emily finds out that the monsters really aren't dropping anything. The other adventurers are having the same problem, and they wonder how they are going to pay their debts if this keeps going on. They then go somewhere else to try their luck, and Ryouta thinks that this looks bad. Celeste mentions that the prices of goods are rising, as people are buying up all they can, and Eve then asks Ryouta to make a carrot come out. Ryouta tries it, and he really gets a carrot. The others wonder how this is happening, and Ryouta then thinks that the dungeons are behaving like Nihonium. He then goes to Nihonium, and he heads to level 4. There he finds a monster which looks like a girl, and he thinks that she must be the dungeon master of Nihonium. He then attacks her, but his attacks have no effect on her, and the monster girl attacks Ryouta. The story continues, and Ryouta is fighting the dungeon master in Nihonium, and his attacks aren't working on it. Ryouta tries to use his special bullets, but they also don't have any effect on it, and even his homing bullets aren't hitting their mark. Ryouta then tries his fusion bullets, but they also pass through the dungeon master. He thinks that he has no way of winning this, but he won't give up. He then notices that one of his bullets has injured the dungeon master, and he shoots some homing bullets. The bullets hit the dungeon master as she tries to attack, and Ryouta does the same thing again. He then explains that the body part that the dungeon master attacks with becomes corporeal, and the abilities of the homing bullets kick in at the moment her body part becomes corporeal. He states that once he figured that out, he just had to fire more homing bullets, and they reacted to the dungeon master's attacks and hit her. Ryouta mentions that he is out of homing bullets now, but in her weakened state the power of the dungeon master is comparable to his, and he won't lose to her now. Ryouta then fights with the dungeon master, and he defeats her. This exhaustion makes him faint, and the scene then cuts to Emily calling out to Ryouta. She wonders if he is alright, and Ryouta can't believe that Emily came looking for him. He mentions that a healing bullet will fix him up, and Emily then hits him with a healing bullet, and Ryouta gets all better. He thanks Emily for saving her, and Emily shows him that dungeons are dropping items again, and she states that Ryouta has saved everyone. Emily then states that she hopes that Ryouta wouldn't push himself so hard even if it's to help people, and she mentions that even if he can get healed, getting injured must still hurt. Ryouta mentions he wasn't even thinking about saving the town, and he states that he just started running here without even realizing it. Emily mentions that she doesn't want Ryouta to push himself, but she forgets that this is how he is. Ryouta states that pushing himself was worth it, as he can have Emily's bean sprout soup again. Emily mentions that she will make some soup for Ryouta later, and Ryouta then notices that the dungeon master has dropped a ring. The scene then cuts to them outside the dungeon, and Emily states that she wants to tell everyone that Ryouta fixed the problem. Ryouta states that he doesn't like attracting too much attention, and the other members of his party then come there, and Alice mentions that it didn't seem like this monster wanted to befriend her. Ryouta states that Alice should try another monster, and Celeste mentions that Ryouta shouldn't head into danger alone. Ryouta states that he will keep this in mind the next time, and Eve mentions that she hasn't had enough carrots yet. Ryouta mentions that he will stop by Telyalu on the way to home, and the others state that they will also come with him. The scene then cuts to Ryouta in Nihonium the next day, and he thinks that if the description he heard for this ring is correct, then it's incredibly powerful. He then comes across some monsters, and he takes care of them, and this gives him some crystals. Ryouta then meets the princess and her party, and one of her party members mentions that the idea of rings that Ryouta gave them isn't gonna work for a while. He states that this would mean that dragons are their main targets, and the princess can't finish those alone. He mentions that the princess has a level of 94 out of a maximum of 99, but it still won't work. The scene then cuts to Ryouta checking out the princess's level, and he notices that all her stats and drop rates are F, despite her high level. He thinks that it's gotta suck when none of the work you put in pays off, and he then gives the princess the crystal he got just now. This makes the princess level up, and Ryouta explains that this ring converts any experience gained after maxing out your level into crystals. The princess then notices that all of her stats have also gone up, and Ryouta then gives the princess some more crystals, and she levels up again. Her stats also level up one more time, and Ryouta mentions that the princess must be a late bloomer. He states that all of her stats should go up to rank A by the time she reaches level 99, and the princess is glad that all she has done until now hasn't been a waste. She thanks Ryouta for teaching her this, and she wonders if Ryouta remembers when she asked him to accept her first ring, and she states that she wants Ryouta to accept all of her firsts. Ryouta states that it wouldn't be right of him to take that much, and he leaves saying that he has something to do. The scene then cuts to Ryouta telling everyone that he bought all the carrots and bean sprouts from every shop in town, and he mentions that he is going to get all of them to level up. He then explains that this ring of his allows him to turn his experience points into crystals, and the others can't believe that this is really possible. Ryouta mentions that Alice and Eve have already maxed out their levels, so this leaves Emily and Celeste. Eve then mentions that carrots are for eating, and Emily states that Ryouta will give her even tastier carrots if she is patient. Eve agrees, and Ryouta then gets started. He starts killing the strays as they spawn, and he tells Emily and Celeste to take turns picking up the crystals. The girls keep leveling up, and Celeste thinks that Ryouta has really perfected this method. She thinks that he is the very image of a first-class adventurer, and Alice thinks that she has joined the party of someone genuinely incredible. Emily agrees, and they all think that Ryouta is really amazing. By night both of the girls have maxed out their levels, and they check out their stats. Emily notices that both her stats and drop rates have gone up, and Celeste then checks her stats. She notices that all of her drop rates are not F anymore, and Emily states that she is not a F final anymore. They then thank Ryouta for this, and Emily thinks that it's sad that Ryouta is not getting the experience points himself when he is working so hard. Ryouta states that experiences aren't only denoted with numbers, and he mentions that he has got a lot through his experiences in this world. He states that now that they have maxed out their levels, Ryouta family is ready to move on to the next stage. The scene then cuts to Ryouta family walking around town, and they notice that everyone is talking about them. Everyone thinks that the one with the hammer is Emily, and she has a merchant who provides her weapons. They notice that they have even tamed the killer rabbit, and their mage Celeste also excels at gathering intel, and the new girl can tame monsters. The scene then cuts to Ryouta taking the girls to get them a license, and Alice states that they can all enter the dungeon as long as one of them has a license. Ryouta mentions that this could come in handy someday, and Celeste states that having more people with their own licenses will make their family look stronger. Ryouta states that today Emily and Celeste will be getting their license to go below level 5 of Telulu, and he thinks that this shouldn't be a problem for them. He asks Alice to learn from them and prepare for her exam, and Eve mentions that Ryouta doesn't have to worry about her as she already has a license. Emily and Celeste then take their exams, and they manage to get their licenses easily. Afterwards, Ryouta states that their family is in a good place right now, and he mentions that next they are going to act individually for a while. He states that they will head to separate hunting grounds where they can make most of their talents, and he mentions that he wants to get an idea of how much profit they can make on their own. The others think that this is important too, and Ryouta mentions that he will give them some potions to boost their drop rates, and he tells them to use them whenever they need to. He mentions that they shouldn't push themselves even if they don't make as much profit as they want, and he states that they should do their best to have lunch and dinner together. Every member of Ryouta family then works separately, and they have another meeting after 6 days. Emily states that over these days she made an average of 160,000 pilos a day, and Eve mentions that she made an average of 120,000 pilos. Alice and Celeste mention that combined they earned an average of 215,000 pilos a day. Ryouta states that he made 1,560,000 pilos a day, and he mentions that together their family can make 2 million pilos a day. Ryouta then states that he would like to buy magic cards for all of them now, and the scene then cuts to him showing the cards to everyone. He shows them that the cards are made in such a way that all of their materials can be transferred to a storage room, and this is Orton's latest model. He states that this way they can keep hunting even if their cart gets full, and Alice wonders how they are going to get this to the trader. Later Ryouta talks about this with Urza, and he mentions that they will have to make multiple trips between here and there if he stores everything at home. Urza mentions that she will talk to the owner about this, and the scene then cuts to Ryouta telling everyone that from now on Urza will work exclusively for them. Celeste states that it's wonderful that Urza will count the goods here, and make arrangements to have them collected, and Emily mentions that it's like Urza is also a part of their family. Ryouta thinks that they can hunt without any worries now, and he thinks that he is glad that he got sent to this world. Ryouta family then has a welcoming party for Urza, and Ryouta wonders why is the Neptune family here. Neptune states that he has been wanting to see Ryuta's house, and Emily mentions that it's better to have more members when having a party. The princess then comes to Ryuta's house, and she states that she came here to thank him for the other day. Ryouta invites her in, and Orton then also comes there with Olga. Clint comes there as well, and he states that he has brought a box of sugar to thank Ryouta for defeating that dungeon master. Ryouta notices that everyone is having fun, and he thinks that he was incredibly fortunate to be summoned to this world and receive a unique skill. Ryouta then thinks that it looks like they would be needing more food, and him and his party then head into the dungeon to get some more. Thanks for watching parts 1 to 12, the rest of the parts will be on my channel. Please like and share the video if you enjoyed it, and make sure to hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell to keep getting new anime recap updates.